Hello, everyone. Merry Christmas. My name is Patricia Meredith, and I am an author of historical mystery and cozy mystery, including my newest release, Death of a Christmas Tree Salesman, which is available in print, ebook, audiobook, everywhere books are sold. Though you can get it signed, especially from me, if you order it from my website. But a little bit more about that later. First off, Merry Christmas, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Those of you who are joining me live, I will have some questions for you later so we can interact a little bit. But thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited to bake these gingerbread cookies. If you missed last week, I cooked kach, Egyptian kach, which is a traditional Christmas recipe from Egypt. And both of these recipes are included in the back of my book. So if you pick up a copy of Death of a Christmas Tree Salesman, in the back there are 2 recipes included, both of which are crucial to the plot and are definitely mentioned and, if not, described a little bit. So there's the kach recipe, and then I've got the gingerbread cookie recipe. So you can find those there. If you don't have a copy of the book, go get one. Or you can also find these recipes on my website, which again, which I don't think I've put that up there yet. My website is patricia-meredith.com. So you can head there and you can find the blog that has all of these recipes listed on there. So all being this one, the kach recipe, and then the Sunday before that, I went live and did a sugar cookie recipe with my dear friends Kay and Andrew. They joined me, and it was basically a great bookish bake-off is what one commenter called it, and I loved that so much that I'm definitely going to use that in future. So hopefully we will have other bookish bake-offs in the future with just more than just me. But if you're joining live tonight, thank you so much for popping on and saying hi. Be sure to say something in the comments so I know that you're there. Yeah. So I am so excited to be here. Thank you, Pam. I'm so glad that you're here too. Glad to be that you're able to join me because I know everybody is all over the place. So it's just so nice to see people, popping on from all over and joining live. So we thought that this would be the easiest way to do it this year was to go live. In the past, I have filmed them and edited them, and I thought, you know what? Nope, I'm just going to go live and do it all that way. So you'll hear me say a lot because that's what happens when I go live. This is why I normally edit. But I'm really excited that you guys are here. Really excited to make these gingerbread cookies. This is a traditional recipe that I have used for years now. So it's definitely a tried and true one. And I'm really excited to share it with you guys. So let's see. So I wanted to mention the sugar cookies, the kach. And then one other thing, if you're watching this and are able to tune in tomorrow night, oh, I don't have it on here, but tomorrow night there will be a live Christmas party here on my channel and on a couple other booktuber channels. All of us booktubers and authors are getting together to have a virtual Christmas party online. So be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you will be notified when that goes up tomorrow night. That'll be at 7 o'clock Mountain Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. So be sure to tune in, and there will be giveaways and prizes and games, and it's going to be so much fun. So definitely be sure to tune in for that. So then the other thing I wanted to mention was the last way that you can get these recipes is by purchasing a deluxe Christmas box from me. And again, that is only available through my website. Let me put that back up there again. There you go, the Christmas Deluxe box. Today is really the last day that you can order it. Maybe tomorrow. We'll say tomorrow. Tomorrow, Friday, will be the last day that you can order it. And even then, I cannot guarantee that it will be there by Christmas. Hopefully, it will get to you by Christmas if you order it tomorrow. But we're getting really tight on that last week of Christmas, so I really can't make guarantees where post office is concerned. But if you are interested in buying a deluxe box, it comes with a gift wrapped copy of my book, and it is signed and says Merry Christmas on it, and I can personalize that if you would like. And then it also comes with laminated recipe cards. And so that's why I wanted to mention it tonight, is because this does include laminated recipe cards of the recipes that are in the back of the book. So that's the gingerbread cookies and the kach recipe. And I laminated them and included them in there because that's how I like to keep recipes that I love. And then I can come back to them over and over again and they don't get ruined, right? They don't get splattered on and things like that. So that's how I keep my recipes. So you can get 2 laminated recipe cards in there. And then there's a bunch of other fun stuff. There's hot cocoa mix, homemade bookmark with a snowflake on there. There's different cookie cutter shapes. I have a whole bunch of different ones of these. There's bunch of snowman and Santa stickers. There's candy canes. There's tea candle. And the other big thing that I am so excited about is the peppermint soap. So this is a hand-painted, handmade peppermint soap from a local gal here in Colorado. And she and I met, and she was able to paint it just like the cover of my book. So you can get peppermint soap. This is the only way to buy this soap. She's not selling it elsewhere, so the only way to get it is this way. And then she painted it just like my cover. I love it. It's so amazing. It turned out so good. And it smells really, really good. It smells like Christmas. Oh, that wonderful peppermint smell. So like I said, this is your last chance to order that. So you've been forewarned. Oh, and then I wanted to show you guys the cookies that we made before. That's what I meant to do. So we made, let's see. Can't really see some of them. So these were the sugar cookies. And if you watch the video, you'll see how I made them in different colors. I love doing the red and green or the red and white or the green and white, right? And mixing them up so that way you get really unique shapes on your sugar cookies without even having to decorate them. So it makes it really easy. And then you can still put icing on them if you want. And then these are the kach, just so you can see what they look like. We still have some from last week. I can't believe we haven't eaten them all yet. We're getting close, though. We're getting down to the last like 3 of them. They're basically baklava flavored cookies. So if you like that pistachio and honey flavor, these cookies are for you. They are absolutely delicious and amazing. So check those out if you haven't already, and join me for baking those as well, because they are really, really good, really amazing. All right, I think that's it. So let's dive into making gingerbread cookies. All right, let me move my book out of my way. All right, so for this one, you're going to mix your dry ingredients and then your other ingredients, your sugar and stuff, in a separate bowl. So we're going to start with the dry ingredients. And I did go ahead and pre-measure everything just so that way I can make sure that it is all correct. So, so we're going to start with the dry ingredients. Let me make sure I grab the right recipe, not the kach recipe. So we've got Mary's gingerbread cookies. Mary, like Merry Christmas, is my gingerbread man in the book. So you'll get to know him better through the book. So we start with 3 1/4 cups of flour. Now, just to be clear, I don't measure in this is a liquid measuring cup. I do measure it with a dry measuring cup and then put it into this bowl. Because that's the proper way to measure flour. So I wouldn't recommend measuring flour in a wet measuring cup, but that's where it ended up, was in this wonderful bowl. I love these bowls. And then I went ahead and measured all my spices. So for that, you're going to need 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon cloves, 1/2 teaspoon nutmeg, 1 tablespoon ginger, 1 tablespoon cinnamon, and yes, those are tablespoons, and then 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and you can put more pepper in if you like them spicy. So that is all mixed together. I went ahead and put all those in. Those are all going to go in with my flour. And I did everything except for the nutmeg because I wanted to show you guys. We use real whole nutmeg. About 2-3 years ago, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, about that length ago, we read something about, I want to say it was Jamie Oliver. We love Jamie Oliver and all of his recipes. And he said something about how much cheaper it is to buy nutmeg as a whole nut like this. And then you have a grater or zester, right? This is, it's called both things depending on whether you're using it to grate or zest. So it's a smaller, more fine grater. I use this when I'm making my lemon zucchini bread, lemon rosemary muffins that are a recipe that I have also on my website that are Mrs. Curry's lemon rosemary muffins from the Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries. So, but a zester is definitely one of those tools that I could not live without. I definitely like having it on hand. So we already had this on hand. And then we started buying the nutmeg in full nuts. We bought these nuts, like I said, about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 whole nuts in here. I think there were 8 to start. So we have gone through 1, and then this is left of another 1. Right. And so it's lasted us a very long time. And the thing is, if you keep them as nuts, they're good for a very long time. And then when you zest them, they're much fresher, right? The flavor is much fresher. So instead of buying, I buy ground cloves and ginger and things like that. But that can go bad if you leave it in your cupboard for too long. Loses its. It's not that it goes bad, it's that it loses its pungency, right? It's not as strong when you're baking with it. So we have found that doing this is wonderful, especially this time of year. Cup of eggnog, and you put a little bit of nutmeg on top, or you do eggnog in your coffee, a little bit of nutmeg on top, makes all the difference. So just wanted to show you guys, this is how we do our nutmeg. And so if you're looking to save money on nutmeg, that definitely is the key. So I'm just going to zest it over it. Now, normally for my spices, I don't really measure. I went ahead and pre-measured these ones, so they are actually accurate. But in general, for my spices, I just kind of eyeball it. So for this was half of a teaspoon of nutmeg. So I figure you really can't go wrong. And I did just drop my thing, but I can pick it back up and keep going. So I'm just going to eyeball it for the nutmeg. I like nutmeg, so I'm going to make sure that is at least how much I saw before when I did 1/4 teaspoon. So there we go. And that's just in there, right? And then I can just save this nutmeg, even though it's covered in flour now, but that's okay. So I'm going to save this for tomorrow morning to put on my eggnog and coffee. So there you go. Put that to the side and dry it off there. There we go. All right. So then got to grab my whisk. All right. So then you just whisk those dry ingredients together. So I've got the flour and the spices and everything in here together. Oh, it already smells like gingerbread. It smells like Christmas. Oh. And that's why I'm not usually like really careful with my spice measurements. I tend to just kind of eyeball it because in the end, you really can't go wrong. So there we go. It's nicely blended all together. All right, so I've got my dry ingredients, so I set that to the side. Now in the electric mixer, I'm going to beat the butter and the brown sugar. Now this recipe does include brown sugar specifically. It's not white sugar. 3/4 cup of butter, and it's softened. And the tip I can give you for softening your butter, my egg there, is to cut it up. So if you want your butter to be nice and soft, even if you just pulled it out of the fridge, if you cut it up, it will soften a lot faster. Now I have had this sitting out while I was preparing everything else. It's been sitting out for about an hour, so it's nice and soft and ready to go. But in general, you definitely want to look at your recipes when you're baking to see if they specifically say that you want to soften your butter or bring it to room temperature or not. Because if it's supposed to be chilled, so like if you're making a pastry dough, right, it's supposed to be chilled butter. So that means you don't pull it out ahead of time and make sure that it's at room temperature. You definitely want to, if it specifically says that it needs to be chilled, like in pastry specifically, you definitely want to leave it in the fridge until the last minute. It makes it harder to mix it together, but that's on purpose, right? There's a reason why it makes that beautiful pastry dough crust. So for this one, because it has butter in it and it has been softened, I will have to chill it for a little bit after I get it mixed. So that's why I'm kind of rushing through this part. I'm going to mix it all together, and just to show you guys how quick and easy this is, because you're just going to whip it together and then you're going to put it in the fridge for about an hour. I'm not going to make you guys wait that long. I'm just going to pull off a smaller amount and put it in the freezer to do it a little bit faster. And then we'll talk a little bit while I am waiting for that to rest and chill. And the reason you chill it is so that it will hold its form when you cut it out of the shape with the cookie cutter shapes. If you don't, if you just want soft gingerbread that just kind of has a blup, just like a round shape, then you don't have to chill it in between, but just know that because there's butter in it, it is going to spread a little bit. So if you're looking for that wonderful gingerbread man shape, then you're definitely going to want to chill these in between. So, all right, we've got our butter, so I'm going to go ahead and cream that. And we'll get that going. And it should cream really nice and easily if it's come to room temperature and been softened. So. The other thing about softening butter is you should never soften it by putting it in the microwave because you'll end up with like butter with a hole through it, right? That softens it too much. If you're really in a hurry and you're like, oh, I forgot to, I'm making this thing for a potluck tonight and I forgot to soften my butter, then what I would recommend doing is actually you take a glass jar and you heat it up. So that you can, fill it with hot water or fill it with water and put it in the microwave and heat that up. Okay, so then you've got this hot jar. If you place the hot jar over your butter, it will soften very quickly. So you just put the butter like sticking, just stick it or cut it up like that. And so that way it fits underneath the jar. And then you put the jar over top of it and then it will soften to room temperature a lot faster without melting. All right. With the beauty of technology, it is already whipped. So that's why you invest in an electric mixer. So I've got my butter in there. Now I'm going to mix in the 1/2 cup brown sugar. So if you look at my brown sugar, you will see that it is probably darker than the average brown sugar. I buy dark brown sugar. And that is on purpose because I think the flavor is so much better. And the difference is it actually has some molasses mixed into it, I believe. Somebody told me that once. That's the difference between dark brown sugar and light brown sugar. I think brown sugar, all of it has molasses in it, but I think it has more in it if it's dark. So somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But. All right, so now we're creaming the butter and the sugar together. An electric mixer, you definitely want to pull it out because like right there, my butter got stuck and it didn't want to mix. The problems they don't show you on British Baking Show. So here we go. You definitely want to make sure all that brown sugar gets mixed in and not just pressed into the bottom. I want it creamed with my butter. All righty. All right. Nice and creamed and mixed. So, yeah. All right. So that's all mixed up. So then we're going to add in the egg. Yep, until light and fluffy, about 2 minutes. So add the eggs and molasses and beat until combined. All right. So always rinse your eggs. We lived on a farm for 4 years, and so we were getting our eggs straight from the chicken. And an unwashed egg will last you longer, like it won't go bad longer. You don't have to refrigerate it. You just leave it out on your countertop, which is really nice. But you should always then rinse it, right? So the natural like dirtiness that's on the outside of an egg is there on purpose, and it does keep it fresher for longer. But then you should always rinse your egg because salmonella, which is what you can get if you eat, raw egg stuff like that, it actually comes from the shell. It grows on the outside. So if you rinse your eggs, even the ones from the store, I always rinse them. Just to make sure and just out of habit because of 4 years of doing it, you get used to doing it. So I tell you what, fresh eggs from a chicken, there's nothing quite like it. It's amazing. So yeah. Awesome. So I was right. Yay! About brown sugar. There you go. Thanks for looking it up and checking. All right. We've got the egg mixing in there. All right, and then now I'm going to throw in the molasses. So my trick with measuring molasses or honey or anything sticky like this, even peanut butter, is I spray the inside of my measuring cup. So I put, so I use like Pam spray, you know, like the butter, it's got oil in it, you know, whatever. Or just put a little bit of oil in there if you don't have a spray. Just put a little bit of oil in there and wipe it all around, just like you're greasing like a pie pan or something like that. But then as you can see, the molasses just, it doesn't cling to the edges, right? I'm going to get a nice smooth pour out of this, right? So my molasses is going to go in. And a little bit in there, but it's going to come out, yeah, nice and clean. So I'm going to make sure I get all my molasses. Molasses is expensive. I want all of it to go into my cookies and not be wasted. So as you can see, I end up with a practically clean measuring cup. And it's just a little bit of oil, so it's really not gonna, you know, not gonna mess up anything that you're baking. So there you go. That's it. All right, so I got my molasses in there, butter. That was half a cup of molasses, my egg, my brown sugar, my butter. So that's everything. So now we're just gonna beat it all together. So once it is all combined with the egg and the molasses and everything, we're going to pour in the dough, the flour mixture, a little bit at a time. Again, I'm going to clean my beater. It is grabbing everything today. Ooh, man, that smells like molasses. Oh. So in some ways, I think it's the smell of molasses that smells more like gingerbread cookies to me than even the spices. So I don't know if anybody's ever used a recipe. I don't think there is a recipe for gingerbread that doesn't include molasses. I'm sure there are other cookies that are similar that don't use them. But all the recipes I've ever seen use molasses. All right. Hello, Miss Alethea. Nice to see you. A gluten-free gingerbread house. Oh, man, that's hard to find. I'm glad you were able to find one. Yeah, these are definitely not going to be gluten-free or vegan or anything like that. They have everything in them, including lots of sweet brown sugar. But I'm so glad you were able to find some. All right, so I've got everything mixed now. So I'm just going to mix it up until it is. See, I still have clumps of butter in there, so I'm trying to make sure it all gets mixed in together. So, oh, good, making gingerbread houses. So, we generally in the past have bought our gingerbread house kits instead of making them out of our own gingerbread because I like my gingerbread to be soft and tasty rather than so hard that you can build stuff out of it. So we tend to buy the kits because then we don't plan on eating them. So I don't mind buying something that, you know, is unedible, right? Because I don't recommend eating the ones that come in the kits. They're not meant to be. They are meant to be put together, right? Unless it's gluten-free. So maybe that, yeah, I wonder if gluten-free makes it last even longer. So, yes, exactly, yeah. So Dee and Sue is my parents. And like they just pointed out, we have some relatives who have celiac. So finding a gluten-free recipe would definitely be a good call. I also have a friend at church who's gluten-free. So that would, yeah, I'll have to look. So, yeah, the Oreo houses, that's what we did last year, actually. We did an Oreo one. And those were a little bit more tasty, but they were hard. They were not, you know, they've been in a box. They've had all that extra stuff added to them to make them last from Christmas to Christmas, right? To make them shelf stable. So they're not necessarily the most tasty ones. So I like to make mine. And this is definitely, you know, gingerbread cookies versus gingerbread bread, right? That's going to be different. So making yours from scratch. Awesome. Well, good luck with making it from scratch. That's, yeah. Well, cooking gluten-free is so hard because you end up having to use all sorts of different things. So, because they taste like cardboard, exactly. So Alicia has a pet pig, which is adorable. Though I still have yet to see a picture. But yes, I love that she's going to eat the gingerbread houses because I agree. We need to get a pig just to. Yeah, I just want that pig. I think they're adorable. So, all right, so we've got everything in there. It is a drier dough versus like the cup that I made last time, or even the sugar cookies. No, it's more like the sugar cookies actually. It's not like that. So I can pick a piece off, right, and it doesn't stick to my fingers at all, right? It's a very clean dough. And it presses into shapes really nicely. So like I said, you could actually bake them just like this, right? But then they'll spread and they won't make shapes. So I'm going to make shapes today because that sounds like fun to me. And so I'm going to clean this off. And then I'm going to wrap some of it and put it in the fridge for tomorrow, cut out with my kids. And then I'm going to put some of it, a smaller bit, in the freezer to bake with you guys tonight. So once this goes in, then I'm going to go ahead and get my oven preheated and sitting there for that. All right. Nice and clean. Up so I get all of it. Get my cling wrap. And then I can pause and chat with you guys for a little bit. So I'm going to pop it in the freezer for maybe 15 minutes. I don't think it will take long. It's just to firm up that butter. Like I said, that's so it will hold its shape. So I'm just going to put some of it in the freezer. And the rest of it will be fine in the fridge till tomorrow. Yum. All right. So there's our first batch. Oh, that tastes good. Go in the freezer. So while I'm doing this, I'll ask you guys my first question. So one of the things I was thinking about, yes, I have to chill this dough before you roll it and cut it in shapes. Yes, exactly. Because of the butter in it. So otherwise it will just go flat. So my follow-up question with that was going to be, what is your favorite cookie cutter shape? Because when I'm making cookies, I have like a go-to cookie cutter that I usually end up making a lot of, right? And I realized that each of my kids also have one that is, a certain shape that they love. We end up with a lot of Christmas trees. And I love decorating the Christmas trees. Those are really fun. Snowmen, end up with a lot of those, of course. Growing up, I distinctly remember having a cookie cutter, this shape, that was a reindeer. And so this one is very nostalgic for me. I like to make those. And then this is a newer one that my mother-in-law introduced me to. So she always did a hand-shaped one, and then she cuts out the fingers in between each one and then puts them down so that they're making an I love you. And I love that. I just think that is such the cutest idea. Because really you could make all sorts of signs. You could make, every letter in the alphabet and spell your name, right? Or spell Santa, or spell, whatever you want, or Merry Christmas, right? And then you would have a whole setup of sugar cookies that said Merry Christmas, spelling it out in sign language, right? So, and I'm trying to do letters like while I'm talking, and it's really hard to do. So I love doing, I love you with the handprints. So what do you guys have that you like to do? Yeah, decorating. I love decorating gingerbread houses. I really do. Like, I do all sorts of different ones. Norse runes for love and good health. That is really cool. A pig. Of course you do a pig. I love it. That's awesome. So do you decorate it like Charlotte, or do you make it like different psychedelic colors, or what do you do for your pig? Um, and yeah, I love finding the different new shapes. Norse runes would be really cool. I wonder if they make Lord of the Rings like elven shapes, so you could cut out and spell things in Elvish. That would totally be something we would do. In fact, I'm sure they have Lord of the Rings cookie cutters. We have Star Wars cookie cutters because every year on Star Wars Day, we make sugar cookies that are Star Wars. So maybe this year we'll make gingerbread because I love gingerbread. It has such a good flavor to it. So, but usually we make the Star Wars shaped ones because Star Wars Day is May the 4th, right? May the 4th be with you. And then this last year, I discovered that there are 2 Lord of the Rings days. There is September 22nd, which is Frodo and Bilbo's birthday, because they share the same birthday. And so this year we watched The Hobbit over that weekend. We did it live, so you can find that here on my channel if you want to check it out. In fact, Alicia was there. I think, Alicia, wasn't that the first time that you had watched The Hobbit, I think? And then in March, so March, I think it's March 4th. Yeah, March 4th unto Mordor is the other Lord of the Rings weekend. So over that weekend, we watched Lord of the Rings, so the first 3 in the series. So it was so much fun. And again, we did that live, so you can find that here on my channel if you want to watch us watching Lord of the Rings. Because of course we couldn't share it online because of copyright. But sometimes it's really fun to watch those videos of people reacting. My husband Andrew loves watching the ones where it's, somebody who has never seen Lord of the Rings and they're like our age, like in their 30s, which usually it's not. Usually they're in their 20s. And they've never seen Lord of the Rings. And because our generation just grew up with it. Like we all saw it in theaters, and it's like Star Wars for my parents' generation. So yeah, first time watching The Hobbit. That's what I thought about war pigs. Yes, that's right. Yes. So, and then Dean Sue, teapot cookie cutters. Oh, that would be fun. That would be really fun to do teapots. Or like, do like teacups. Ooh, that would be fun to do for our church. Just did a Victorian tea, and it was really fun, and just beautifully decorated. So I love doing tea parties. That's something I want to get into doing more of here in Colorado Springs, because finding a tea shop, there's actually several nice ones at like castles and things like that are really cool. So, all right, I'm gonna put this in the fridge. All right. And that's for tomorrow. All right, so normally I am a clean as you go type person, so it's hard for me to not do that. So yeah, tea party made of cookies. Oh, that would be so much fun to do, like a whole, and like decorate them like teacups and make them look like, I'm not very fancy with my decorations. It's, I'll post some pictures after we decorate our sugar cookies and our gingerbread cookies together. My kids are much better at it than I am. I just tend to, I don't know. I don't take my time with it the way I probably should. And so mine they're just simple. Yeah. Because I figure I'm just going to eat them anyway. So, and it's more for the kids. I like making them with the kids. I like doing it with the kids. It's something that we can do every year as a tradition. So, the other thing that I was thinking about while I was cooking was before, as I was prepping everything, I had music going because I love listening to Christmas music while I'm baking, or just music in general while I'm baking and cooking. But I realized that is only true for me when I am by myself cooking or cleaning or anything like that. Then I listen to either an audiobook or I listen to music. If somebody is in the kitchen with me, then I don't want any music on. Because like if I'm cooking with my husband or if I'm cooking with my kids, especially when I'm cooking with the kids, I want them to be able to focus and know, make sure that we're following the directions clearly, that we're pointing out that it's a teaspoon, not a tablespoon, things like that, right? Especially when it comes to salt and things like that. Make sure it's salt, not sugar, and brown sugar versus, all those specific things. So I tend not to have music going when I'm cooking with other people. which is probably not a good thing because I was dancing to some of the music. Some of it was like swing dance music. It's like swing Christmas stuff, like Harry Connick Jr., that kind of thing, Ella Fitzgerald. And I was thinking, oh, I should probably like have music going when someone's in the kitchen with me. So I wanted to ask you guys, what is your thoughts on that? Do you listen to music while you're baking or cooking, or are you a silent baker, silent cook? How about it? Listening to my book. Oh, good. I'm so glad. Just said that listen to the book with me. Oh, I'm so glad. And I saw your review. Thank you so much. So yeah, to those of you who have listened to my book and not left a review yet, you need to leave a review. It's okay. But even if you can just leave stars, telling people how much you loved it, that would be amazing. It just, it spreads the love and lets people know how much you enjoyed it. But if you have time to leave even just a short thing, Alicia just left a beautiful, couple sentences, letting me know that her and her brother had listened to the book and loved it. And I just so appreciate reading those messages. It makes me so happy as an author. It is so nice to put a book. I put so much effort into these books, and once they're out there, they're in the world, and I'm trusting that other people are going to like them as much as I enjoyed writing them, right? But you never know. You never know. And, you end up with some bad reviews from people who it just wasn't their cup of tea. And I totally respect that. Everybody has a different thing they like to read. I definitely have books that I would give 0 stars or 1 star for different reasons. And so it is so nice when I come across reviews that are 4 or 5 stars and then they leave me a little note about like why they loved it, right? Why they so much appreciated it. Because it just encourages me to keep going with what I'm doing, right? It lets me know that how I am writing it is hitting the people that I want it to hit, right? Because I write what I want to read, and so it's so nice to know that other people like to read what I'm writing. So So if I'm chopping vegetables or something mindless, listen to a book. Yes, exactly. During Christmas baking, I like to have Christmas carols playing. Absolutely. I know I have a dear friend who her go-to is the Little Women soundtrack, which is funny because I don't usually think of Little Women as a Christmas movie, but it absolutely is. The original, the original one, even the new one, but the original Little Women with what is her name? Naomi? No, yeah. Oh, I'm blanking on her name, but yeah, the older one. I love listening to the music behind that. Just absolutely immediately evokes nostalgia and just a beautiful story and just that cozy feeling inside. I love Little Women, and so yeah, Winona Ryder. Thank you. Yes. So as Jo, and then it's Kirsten Dunst as Amy. I like the new Little Women also. But it's a controversial opinion, and I like it for different reasons. I don't like it for the same reasons that I like the original. The original is still my go-to. It's nostalgic for me. But it's definitely, it's one of those things that I don't think about as a Christmas movie, like Sleep, not Sleep in Seattle, the other one, While You Were Sleeping, right, is another Christmas movie that people will mention. I'm like, oh yeah, that is a Christmas movie. Of course, Die Hard is always the one that people bring up, but it's nice to come across other ones. So. My Christmas book will definitely make you want to bake. Absolutely. Yes. My Christmas book is so to me, a lot of Christmas is baking. One of the first things I end up making a list of when I think of like, okay, what are we going to try to do over this Christmas holiday? It's what am I going to bake this year? Right. Because those things, the gingerbread cookies and sugar cookies, of course. And then this year we added kach, and I'll probably do that one every year because baklava flavored cookies is like, oh yeah, love it. And then we usually end up making like fudge. My husband has an amazing recipe for fudge that we do every year. So yeah, there's lots of like traditional things that I love to bake. But it's definitely, for me, that is a main part of Christmas is baking. And so I wanted to make sure that was included in my book. So I have the Santas, like the Egyptian Santa, Baba Noel is making the Egyptian kach. They mention peppernoten and other, traditional things that people are making all across the world. And I love including food in my books. I do that in the Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries, and I also do that in Anna Catherine Green. Not so much in Anna Catherine Green, because that one is very historical fiction. And if I can come across her mentioning somewhere in an interview something that she likes to eat, then absolutely, I am going to find the recipe and I'm going to make it and I'm going to have it be in there. But since I haven't found that yet, I haven't really included a lot of food. They have a conversation over a dinner table at one point, but whereas with the Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries, I was able to find some old cookbooks from that time period, from the 19th century. And then I also found, I think it's the Presbyterian, First Church of the Presbyterian or something like that in Spokane. They have, you know, how churches will put together like a collection of recipes from their congregation. And there were a couple of those that were, you know, the church ladies put together a cookbook. So I was able to find recipes that were actually from Spokane, from usually a little bit after my time period, but I figure, well, if they're putting them in this cookbook, that probably they've passed it down and it's something that they've been baking for a while. So I'm excited to include more of those things in future books with those. So all of Patricia's books will make you hungry and want to cook. Good. Excellent. I'm so glad. I love including all those food recipes. It's so much fun. So, and most of them I have tried. They're tried and true recipes. I'm just slowly but surely getting them up out into the world. So yeah, if you're looking for recipes that I've done before, I've done 3 Christmas bakes every year for the last 3 years. So this is my 3rd time doing it. The first 2 years, I did recipes from 19th century cookbooks and tried to include things that were, if not mentioned in my books, that are still from that time period. And then I have shared some recipes from my books on my website. The lemon rosemary muffins that Mrs. Curry makes, the Italian cornbread that the Italian cook, and I'm blanking on her name, my own character, blanking on her name, but in book 2, she makes Italian cornbread, and that's actually a family recipe that is tried and true. And then Nane's chicken pot pie. I love making chicken pot pie. So that recipe is out there as well. So yeah, I love sharing all of those. So yeah. And with audiobooks, like whether it's audiobooks or music that I'm listening to while I'm baking and cooking, I definitely find like it's either I go through phases where I'm listening to audiobooks or I'm listening to podcasts. And they usually don't combine. It's usually one or the other, because I tend to find that you only have so much time to listen to things. And I tend to prefer audiobooks because they count on my Goodreads list, right? I can mark them as, oh, I read this book, right? Whereas podcasts don't count. So I don't get that sense of accomplishment of, oh, I have read 100 books this year. Like I've already met my Goodreads goal for the year of 100 books. But I did include some of the littler books that I've read with my kids for homeschool. For a while there, I was reading through Usaga Yojimbo, which is a graphic novel series. And so, they're really quick and easy to get through. So it definitely boosted up my rating a little bit more. So I'm still like trying to kind of hit more like 110 to kind of make up for that, for those ones. Not that they don't count. It's just, but yeah. I just feel like I have to clarify. So another question I wanted to ask was, what is your go-to Christmas album? Because while I was listening to music, prepping everything, I was thinking about how, I have certain ones that are my like feel good. Like I said, I have a friend who listens to the Little Women soundtrack. That's her go-to Christmas album, is the soundtrack for that. I love, they count. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you. I'm so glad. And especially as a homeschool mom, like it's so hard to be like, you know what, I'm reading this with my kid. I don't care if it's the 3rd time that I read this book. It's, I'm reading it aloud with them, so it works. The Messiah, that's a good one. Always start with that. The Messiah is a good one, and that one doesn't really have words to it, so that would be easy to listen to it while I'm doing other things. We have one that is a Celtic Christmas collection that is it's all strings, and so I like listening to that one when I need something that doesn't have words. Christmas with the Chosen was a really good one. Yeah, that one came out last year. It has a really good collection of songs. But really, my go-to ones are ones that I've listened to for longer, that have been around for longer, that bring back me being a kid and listening to Christmas music. And so things like I have a Barlow Girl Christmas album that I really love. They have this amazing song on there. It's not Mary Did You Know, but it's one like that. I think it's called Hallelujah or something like that. But it's another one about Mary and birth of Jesus and being a mom and things like that. And I love it. The Breath of Heaven, I think. Yeah, maybe that's what it's called. But I really love that song. I love their version of it. I love their version of Carol of the Bells. So that's one of the ones that I definitely go to. And then a more recent one I would say is probably Pentatonics. The Pentatonics Christmas album is amazing, and they are a cappella. I love a cappella music. Absolutely love them. Grew up listening to lots of groups that were a cappella. I love that sound, that natural sound of all of those. So the Pentatonics one has my favorite version of Merry Did You Know, which I actually published a short story called Merry Did You Know. That was the first thing that I ever got like officially published. I had published a few things before that, but it's the first thing that's like, traditionally published with an independent publisher. It's part of an anthology. It's called Christmas Fiction Off the Beaten Path. And they actually just re-released it in a hardback with recipes. So I sent in a recipe to go with it for a challah, which is a traditional Jewish recipe made around Hanukkah. And so I thought that would go well with Merry Did You Know? And so my recipe is in there. And then some people sent in essays about like fake Christmas trees versus real ones, and fun little short stories to add to it, to even add to this short story collection. So it's a really fun collection. So you can find that on Amazon in hardback, Christmas Fiction Off the Beaten Path. And it has, I think it's 6 of us total, 6 different stories. And it's also available in audiobook. So this year they released it in both hardback and audiobook. As it originally was published in 2019, I think it was. So Merry Did You Know is a song that greatly inspired me writing that piece. But I love Breath of Heaven. That's another really good one. So Carol of the Bells by Mannheim Steamrollers. Yes. Their version is amazing. It's so like epic. Also thinking of them, Lindsay Sterling's Christmas album. I don't own it yet. I really want it because she's amazing. So, and if you hear somebody drinking water, that's my dog coming in to get some water. Fave Christmas song. Yeah. Where Are You Christmas by Faith Hill. So Where Are You Christmas is from the Jim Carrey Grinch, right? That is my husband's favorite version of the Grinch, is the Jim Carrey one. I always go to the classic one, classic half-hour original one. The new one though, I really liked the new one. It was good. Yeah, from the Grinch movie. That's what I thought. Yeah. And thanks, Mom. Yeah. Who can read my story without weeping? I think it hits moms more. And that was my goal. Again, I try to stay true to my audience, right? Who am I writing this for? And then just really pound it home for who I'm trying to write to. Because I know I can't please everybody. So, and then I just realized I didn't turn on my oven. So I'm going to do that now. Make sure that is preheating. I was worried I was going to do that. So I almost turned it on beforehand. And then I was like, no, I'll remember. Yeah, right. Oh, well, it should be fine. It'll get hot here pretty soon. Put that away. It's just fun to think like, what's my go-to Christmas? What's the thing that I immediately have to put in? And now it's Christmas. And which the first movie we always watch is the Charlie Brown Christmas. And we do have the soundtrack for that as well. And I like that. That's another good one that's just the music. There's no words to it. So, yes. Yes, I know. I didn't turn my oven on. It's like Great British Bake Off. They're always forgetting to turn their ovens on. We've started watching, it's like the Great British Cooking Show or something like that. It's not called that though, but it's Mary Berry. And it's right after, I might've mentioned this last week. It was after the Great British Baking Show. So it's them doing cooking things. And yeah, in one of the episodes, one of the gals could not figure out the oven. And it's like, honey, just ask somebody how to turn the oven on. Like they're not gonna dock points or anything, but and I always think, don't they walk them through like where everything is in their kitchen, right? Here's where the pans are, and maybe it's so much, it's just, it's overload information. So they can't keep it all straight. I don't know. Anyway, someday I'll be on there and I'll find out how nerve-wracking it is. So that's also why I always pre-measure my stuff before doing this, because I know I'm going to get distracted talking to people and I don't want to mess up my measurements, because that's the first thing that I always notice about Great British Baking Show is like, how can they cook or bake with somebody talking to them. That would be so nerve-wracking, and I would be so distracted. Because like that's why I can't have music going and be talking to somebody in the kitchen with me at the same time. It's either I'm listening to music alone or I'm talking to somebody while we're baking and cooking. I can't do both. So anyway, all right, last question while we're waiting for this to heat up, and then I'll pull out my cookies. What is your favorite Christmas tradition? What is something that, again, that just, all right, I have to do this every year. So, because like one of the first things that come to mind for us is every Christmas Eve, we would get to open one present, and it was always new Christmas PJs, which sounds like, I don't know, it doesn't sound that exciting, but it was so exciting, and it was so crucial. Like, if my parents had ever forgotten to do that, I would have been like just crushed. It would have been like, oh my gosh, but that's Christmas, right? If we don't get new Christmas PJs, it's like, if we ever had been, short on funds or anything, and if we could only get one thing, I would have wanted my Christmas PJs, right? Because that would have been on Christmas Eve. You have to open them on Christmas Eve. And so, like I think I mentioned last week, we've started the tradition of doing jólabókaflóð, which is an Icelandic tradition where on Christmas Eve you open a new book, and then you spend all night reading that book and drinking hot cocoa. And you stay up as late as you want. And I love that. It's a very American thing to have to go to bed early so that Santa can come, right? I've been doing research for the second book in this series, which I started writing it already. In fact, you can find it on Goodreads and add it to your want to read list. It's called Murder on the North Pole Express. So I have added it on there. I'm trying to link it to the first book. I need to get that. But you will be able to find it out there. So, and one of the things that has really struck me is how many countries the tradition is to stay up till midnight, because Christmas starts at midnight. Christmas Day begins at midnight, right? That's officially when the new day begins. And a lot of that comes from going to midnight mass for Christmas, right? So a lot of Catholics and Eastern Orthodox and those religions or traditions, they go to midnight mass. So they're up till midnight anyway. And I think jólabókaflóð is kind of tied into that, right? The idea is now I have something to read all night to keep me up until midnight, and drinking hot cocoa and, whatever else you want to put in your hot cocoa is going to keep you up, right? Love a little bit of Bailey's in my hot cocoa. Yeah. Or Irish cream. Yeah. Or peppermint. Schnapps. Yeah. Okay. Now I sound like a lush, but putting a little bit of that in my hot cocoa, because sometimes hot cocoa is so rich. So, but that's part of why in the deluxe Christmas box, I wanted to make sure I had hot cocoa mix in there. Also, it is Sam's favorite drink, which doesn't make sense because he's a talking snowman, but it makes sense once you read the book. So all the things that are in the box have to do with things that happen in the book. So, there you go. Exactly. Yeah. So opening, Christmas PJs on Christmas Eve. I love that. So making Chex Mix. Awesome. Yes. And then playing board games. Any specific board games that you guys like to play? We have a wall of board games. So board games to us means, not just Monopoly and Scrabble and things like that, but we're a big board gaming family. I actually worked for Fantasy Flight Games, which produced, they produced the Song of Ice and Fire living card game, and which is how I got to work with George R.R. Martin. They were putting together an art book for that, and so I got to meet him in person and work with him as an editor for that book, which is pretty cool. I got to work with a lot of amazing authors while we worked there, because my husband was game designing for them, and then I launched the book department there. So, which you can find a full list of like who I worked with and everything on my website. Under books, I have a list of edited works, and so those are all my background in editing, which brought me to where I am today. So we love doing board games. Absolutely love them. Opening presents one at a time from youngest to oldest. Yes. So Christmas takes all morning. Exactly. I love that. That is definitely, that's not just our family, Mom. That is, because as I'm researching like Christmas traditions and stuff, that is definitely something that a lot of people do in order to make it stretch out. Right. But then you see movies like A Christmas Story where they all just go for it, right? And I get that. There's like, there's a lot of fun with that, but I want to see everything and I want it to last longer because I feel like the biggest thing about Christmas is the anticipation, right? That is what makes it what it is we anticipate it for an entire month, right? From day after Thanksgiving to Christmas Day, everything is building up to Christmas. Every store you walk into is prepared for Christmas from pre-Halloween. But I feel like we're waiting all year for it, right? For some countries, it's more about New Year's, right? So you're counting down to New Year's Day, and Christmas happens to come before that. So it's just interesting to see all those things come together. But it's definitely the end of the year, right? And I think that's part of why baking and food is such a big part of this time of year too, is because traditionally you would make a huge meal for either Remembrance Day if you're Canadian, or Thanksgiving if you're American, or any other, there's lots of traditions around that, like a festival feast that they would do for a fall feast to celebrate the end of harvest. And so then you eat a bunch of food, and you're eating a lot through December because you're trying to put on weight, trying to build up that fat for the winter season. So that's where all of that comes from. That's why there's so much food involved with this time of year. And that's why we shouldn't worry about, all of that. Anyway, that's my pet peeve for the year. All right, let's see. Games. Oh, good. Yes. Ticket to Ride. Exactly. Yeah, my mom kicks butt at Ticket to Ride. She's very, very good at that one. Loves Puerto Rico. Oh, I love Puerto Rico. That one, we haven't played that one in a while. We need to pull that one out for the kids. I feel like they might be ready for that one. Catan, absolutely. Yes, that's amazing. Special edition so that her blind fiance can play with her. Wow, that's really cool. So do they have like Braille? Is that, because that would be really neat. Because I know there's certain games that, like FFG was really big on making sure that there's symbols. If it was a symbol game, so like Ingenious is based around colors and symbols. And the reason they made sure every color also has a symbol that's different that goes with it is for the colorblind. So that way you can see the difference, which I know isn't, it's not the same as being blind, but it's neat to see game companies trying to come up with other ways to include everybody, right? It's so neat. So open presents on Christmas Eve, then Christmas Day, hang out, have fancy sandwiches, and play games. Yeah. I love playing board games with family. I absolutely love it. So the older you get, the more you would rather watch people open presents than open your own. Exactly. Especially having kids, right? I want to see the magic and the wonder for them for Christmas. And I don't, when people ask me what I want, I'm like, I don't know. I want you to buy my books. That would be a happy Christmas to me. All right, I'm gonna go get my stuff. Yeah. All right, so note to self, putting it in the freezer worked. It is still malleable, right? But it's chilled now, so it should roll out really nicely, and I'll be able to make the different shapes I want. So that's out of the way. Okay, because there's never enough counter space, right? So, all right, I went ahead and grabbed some more flour so that I could roll these out easily. Oh, thank you for answering, Alethea. She's, I think, to put Braille stickers on things, 3D pieces. Wow, that is so cool. That is so smart. I'm gonna have to keep that in mind for Matsumoto. I'll have to try to teach him how to play. What could they play back then? I mean, they play a lot of card games. So how would you play card games with a blind man, right? And then I could include that in there. So, yeah. And that's definitely something. Maybe that's something. Eventually, I'm going to write a Christmas story in Spokane because that's where I'm going to get my 13th book. Because my plan is to write, it's 12 books in the series, 4 sets of 3. But then I want to do a one-off that's a Christmas special. That'll be a standalone, so that way it's a way for people to get into the series without having read the other ones. Because right now you really have to read them in order. Yeah, so anybody who wants to check out the Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries, definitely read them in order. You got to start with Butcher, Baker, Candlestick Taker, and then move from there, because then the characters all build on each other, and it grows from there. And so it's definitely, you got to start at the beginning. But my plan is to release a Christmas one that is kind of a one-off, that probably won't even be one of the main characters. That might be someone like Mrs. Curry or somebody who we haven't gotten the POV from yet, right? Or maybe Matsumoto, though I have plans for him. But yeah, maybe Archie will get Matsumoto a deck of cards, or make him a deck of cards that he can feel, so that way they can play card games together, because that sounds like something that Archie would try to do for him. So I love that idea. Thank you, Alethea. Thank you for giving me that idea. So I'm going to write that down and make sure that you get the credit in the back. So that, yeah, that'll be fun. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make Christmas trees and snowmen, because that's what we're talking about tonight, is Death of a Christmas Tree Salesman. Oh, gotta get my pan out. So again, like last time, I strongly recommend in getting Silpats, which are these reusable pats, coverings for your pans. I find that they are incredibly invaluable when making cookies. They make it so much easier. So, and my cookie is sticking to my mat here a little bit, so I put a little bit more flour down. But these make it so you don't have to spray every pan when you're cooking and things like that. So, ooh, yeah, or a dice game where you could feel the indents in the dice. Exactly. That would be another thing. I need to research, I'll have to research games then for that time period, see what I can come up with, because absolutely, it'd be dice and cards are going to be the main ones. Then things like Monopoly and Scrabble and things like that all come from Clue. They come from games that have been around for a while by that point when they're invented. But games, like board games being sold as a package like that, wasn't really a thing until after, I think it's after at least after World War II, it might be even after World War I. I always confuse my dates around there, which is really funny, because there's a big difference between World War I and World War II. But you can tell that that's not the time period that I write in. So I love reading books in those time periods, but I haven't done that in a while. So the other thing I wanted to point out was how thick these cookies are. I roll them pretty thick. So that's probably a 1/4 inch thick. Again, I like my cookies chewy. I don't like them hard and crispy. And we're not going to build anything with these, so it's more about the chewiness. That's something like if I was ever on the Great British Baking Show, I would be terrible at making the biscuits that they have to taste good, but also hold up a structure, right? That always boggles my mind. I'm like, how are they doing that? Because I have yet to taste a cookie that will hold structure that really tastes good, the way I want it to. When I want a gingerbread cookie, I want something like this, right? Now, that being said, I also have an amazing recipe for gingerbread biscotti, which is another thing that is mentioned in my book. Nick Claus likes to dip them in his milk, and I think I only mentioned it once in this book, but it's something that I'm going to carry through into other books, because it's definitely a recipe I will be sharing eventually, because it's one of my favorites. I was going to include it in the back of this book, and I was like, no, I can't do gingerbread cookies and gingerbread biscotti. I need to do one or the other. So I went with the gingerbread cookies for this particular one. All right. I think that's about all I'm going to get out of this. So I'm going to roll this last one and just make a nice circle. So that we can get these in the oven. All right, we've got our cookies. Whoops, they just slid. That just shows you how smooth this is. It's so nice. Then everything comes off of it really nicely. All right. So I had preheated my oven to 350. Gingerbread cookies. 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 175 degrees Celsius. And then I rolled them out, and then I'm going to bake them for 8 to 10 minutes. And I always start with 8 minutes. Because of course I always start low. You never know. But better safe than sorry. Because like I said, I like them chewy. All right, I'm going to wash my hands real quick. And as you can see, from that one small bit, I got, what was that, 8 cookies? So it makes quite a few cookies, this recipe does. It's a fantastic one, like the sugar cookies, where it makes enough for you to enjoy yourself, but also pass out to other people. So it's yeah, it's good. Anita, hello. Hi. Never having a gingerbread cookie. Oh my goodness. All right, we're gonna have to fix that. All right, so back to, let's see, I missed some of your answers to my questions. Yeah, a lot were made after World War II. That's what I thought. Toys that made history. Oh yeah, I need to watch that one because that's probably very interesting. So here we go. Clue had to be made in the U.S. first because the UK still had a cardboard ration after the war. I did not know that. But Cluedo, it's originally Cluedo, right? And it's a UK game, I think. It's one of those, I really want to look up the whole history of Clue. I love Clue. It's one of my favorite games. Obviously, I'm a murder mystery writer, so not sure if you've ever had gingerbread cookies, Anita. I feel so sorry for you. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so here's a recipe. So now you can make it and try it. Because I think by the time I got it into a box, they wouldn't taste very good by the time they got to you. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I think you should have all these things, unless molasses is hard to find in Canada. But I don't think so. Aren't you guys kind of known for molasses? So I think you should be able to have all the bits and bobs to make this. So yeah. Well then, okay, so if you don't make gingerbread cookies, what is your traditional, I was asking earlier, Anita, what people made for Christmas? Like, what's your traditional thing that you make for Christmas? So what do you guys make up there? I keep saying up there because Anita's in Canada, so only a few people I know where they live. So. All right, let's see. Got our cookies over here. Maybe you review the book. That would be perfect. Yeah, exactly. So Anita, don't eat the pre-made gingerbread house kits. Those don't count. Okay, you need to make your own gingerbread like this. And then oh, I would love that if you made them and posted that. That'd be amazing. Also, Anita will be on tomorrow night with me for the Christmas party. So be sure to tune in, and then you can. Are you going to be done with the book by then, Anita? Or are you just gonna go with it? Am I calling you out in public? It's okay if you haven't finished the book. It's all right. I don't think Chiago's read it either, so you won't be alone. All right. Well, then these are the sugar cookies. I think I showed those to some people. So, and then I had the other one too. So, all right. No special foods. Okay. Yeah, for Christmas. So, do you celebrate anything this time of year? Like, is there a special? Yeah. What do you guys do? Or do you focus more on New Year's Eve or things like that? You won't be done with the book. Okay. All right. Well, then we won't do any spoilers tomorrow night. I promise. But that's okay. I try to do spoiler free anyway because I want people to go read the book. You have to go do it. Yeah. Do you celebrate like New Year's Eve or Eid is another one I've come across. It's an Egyptian one, I think. But I think it also has to do with there's a lot of different ones this time of year. Hanukkah, that party for New Year's Eve. We usually do board games on New Year's Eve, though, gosh, for the last, 10 years since we've had kids, and really sometimes before that too, we celebrate New Year's Eve. we've lived in either Washington, which is West Coast time, Pacific time, or Mountain time, which is where we are now for Colorado. And so we're always 2 or 3 hours behind the ball dropping in New York City. And so we usually stay up until the ball drops, even though we don't watch it. So, but we end up, sometimes we have, but that's usually we're like, okay, so like in Colorado, and not last year, but the year before that, when we were in Spokane in Washington, we were like, okay, so 9 o'clock, oh, it's midnight on the East Coast. So yay, Happy New Year. And then we go to bed because we're old and we have kids, and that way they can stay up with us till midnight. Yay. But yeah, games and fun. Good. Excellent. Yeah. We usually play board games. Last year, we did stay up till midnight and played board games until midnight, because then they shoot fireworks off of Pikes Peak, which is actually visible from our front step. So we can stand there and we can watch the fireworks going off on Pikes Peak, which is really cool to see. So yeah, we've enjoyed being here. Hindu. Okay, there you go. Hindu festivals in October, November, January. Yeah. December is relaxing. Yeah, it's not relaxing for us. For me, I am looking forward to January. So we have been go for 3 months. It's been nuts. It's been absolutely crazy. Lots of things happening. So, and then, with deciding to release a Christmas book, I knew this was going to happen, that it was going to make it really, really busy for me this time of year. And it's already busy, but I try to really focus on my kids and trying to make it fun for them. And we're homeschool. And so we basically stopped doing school beginning of December. Well, Thanksgiving week, we stopped doing school. And it becomes really simple school. It's a lot of just reading books and discussion, that kind of thing. Like, we're not writing papers, we're not doing worksheets, we're not doing science other than baking, right? Baking is chemistry, so that counts. And then we're going and doing things, right? We're going out and we go to electric safari at the zoo, which is really cool. Our zoo does this. I think it's like the third in the nation, top 3 in the nation. They do all these light ups, these giant light up animals and stuff. And then there's lights everywhere. And so you get to go to the zoo at night, which is kind of fun because you see some different animals that are awake, that are more active at night than they are during the day. So that's really fun. And whenever we go to the zoo, that ends up being kind of a homeschool trip, because either, my daughter ends up drawing something while she's there, or we're just answering questions about, animals and studying the animal kingdom and learning their species and family and all of that, learning talking about, mammal and things like that. So yeah. You got, thank you. We are all over the place. We have been, we have done a physical event every weekend since middle of November. So it's been crazy. So tomorrow night's Christmas party I'm really excited to do this Christmas party. But then that's going to be my last thing. And then I am giving myself 2 weeks off. In January, I have no in-person events, but I have lots of things that I need to get done. We have a lot of things that'll start up in January, but also a lot of just downtime so that we can just relax. And so my next 2 weeks, my focus is my kids and baking and decorating cookies with my family. And we're gonna slow down a little bit. So, now all that to say, I'm also working on the sequel to book 2. I've already started on it, and I'm at 12,000 words now. So, which the first book was about 50,000 words. So I'm over a fifth of the way through the first draft of book 2 already. So I'm really excited. But I'm really inspired because it's Christmas time, and every time I hear a Christmas carol or watch a Christmas movie, I'll come across a quote that I'm like, oh, that's something Sam would say, right? Or that's something Curtis would say. Or, ooh, that's who the murderer could be, right? So yeah, it's really fun. So yeah, 8 minutes was perfect for these cookies. They're like, I can touch them, so I know they're done. Gingerbread, it's always hard to tell when they're done because they're brown, and so you don't want to bake them, and you don't want to brown them, right? But you do want them thoroughly baked. Like I said, I like chewy cookies, so Oh man, they smell so good. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna let those cool just a little bit before I can crack one and show you how they turned out. So writing faster than you can read. I got to keep ahead of you, right? Because eventually you guys are going to catch up, and then I'm not going to know what to do with it yourself. So, yeah, I won't know what to do. So, I would love it if you sent us on vacation. Oh my goodness. Can you send us to Canada though? Because I need to come up there and meet you and Kay in person because that would be amazing. Also, I really want to go to, oh, Andrew's stealing a cookie. There he is. Anita says hi, and Alethea. Yeah, but I also really want to go to, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it now, Toronto. I want to go to Toronto specifically because that's where Murdoch Mysteries takes place. And if you've never seen Murdoch Mysteries, it's awesome, especially if you liked my series, Spokane Clock Tower Mysteries. That's like a great comparison for my books is the Murdoch Mysteries. Not the books. The books are a little bit darker than the TV show, but the TV show is fantastic. I absolutely love it. The first series is kind of like, it's kind of slow getting in there, even though it kicks off with Tesla. Like, it's amazing. I loved it. I love it. I actually have not even finished it yet, but I love it. And I love their Christmas specials specifically. They are great glimpses into Victorian Christmas time. They do a great job of like referencing things that are going to happen in the future. And it's just very quirky and quippy and wonderful. I absolutely love it. So Murdoch Mysteries, definitely check that out. Watch Murdoch Mysteries. Exactly. Yes. Love Tesla. Exactly. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to include him. He will probably make an appearance in book, I think it's 6. We'll end up going to the Pan American Exposition because that's happening in Buffalo in 1901. And in September of 1901, that's where President McKinley is shot and assassinated, right? And we already had some ties into McKinley in book 2. And so I just need to figure out how to get, probably Archie and Marion are going to go to the Pan American Exposition. And then maybe they'll cross paths with Tesla because Tesla did the whole waterfall thing there. Or the tower, right? Yeah. No, he powered it with the waterfall, but he was in charge of the electricity for the Pan American Exposition. And so he made this gigantic tower. I think it's actually the Eiffel Tower. I think it's supposed to look like that. Or maybe it's, I'm crossing everything now because now I'm in Christmas mode, not in Spokane mode. But there's definitely going to be a tie into Tesla. And Archie thinks about Tesla a lot because he's always concerned that he's going to end up in a invention war like Tesla and Edison are, right? And so I love incorporating all of that into my books. I'm fascinated by science and all of that. So yes. All right, here you go, Anita. Throw it to you. Catch it in your mouth. These are going to be amazing. I know, I'm so sorry. So someday I'm going to come up there, Anita, and we'll cook together, okay? We'll bake together and we'll bake you cookies. Because Andrew cooks too. Andrew and I both love to cook and bake. Like, we'll say that that's one of our love languages is baking and cooking together. Because it means so much to us to be together in the kitchen and making food. So that's probably another reason why all of my books have food in them. It's because it's my love language. I love food. So our other love language is quotes. That actually came up with, yes, Anita, awesome. She said she loved it. Yay. One of my other, I think I was on Kay's channel. We were doing an interview and I was saying one of our love languages for Andrew and I is quotes. We love quoting movies to each other. And so that's where the whole basis for Sam, for the whole story comes from is I love making Christmas references throughout the whole thing. And that's what slows me down. Like, I'd probably be further into the first draft of this one if I wasn't like stopping and starting, because I'll come across something and be like, oh no, okay, that quote needs to go in here, or trying to make sure there's enough. You're in Toronto. Oh my gosh. Okay. Is Murdoch Mysteries filmed in Toronto? Because I would love to see like at least the facades. I'm sure the insides are not, but yeah. Okay, here we go. Gingerbread cookies. I should probably hold them the correct way up. Sorry. So here's my Christmas tree, and then I already started cracking it. So there it comes off, right? So you see how like thick and chewy it is, right? It's really chewy. It's not crunchy. I love these. And these, they are pretty low sugar. I mean, if you don't count molasses, they're pretty low sugar considering they are only, I think it's half a cup, right? Half a cup of brown sugar. That's it. Compared to the sugar cookies, which was 2 cups of white sugar, like that's a lot of sugar, right? Whereas these are only half a cup of brown sugar, but it is brown sugar, and then it's half a cup of molasses, and molasses is like, condensed sugar. It's sugar syrup. But other than that, so they're not overly sweet, right? They're kind of lightly sweet, which is why then when you make the frosting to put on them, I lightly frost these though. I don't do a lot, but I said the same thing for our sugar cookies. I'm not big on frosting. I'm not a huge sweet tooth person though. I mean, my kids slather these things in frosting. Don't get me wrong. Andrew slathers them in them. Yeah, you like your cookies chewy. You're gonna love these then, because yeah, that's what I go for. Yeah, those are so good. They're like crispy on the outside. Not that crispy, but no. Frankie Drake Mysteries. No. In the 1920s. No way. Okay. No, I have to look that up. I wonder if it's streaming anywhere. Because that's the thing, it's some of them are hard to find. Like Murdoch Mysteries, for a while there, I had to get them through our library, like on physical discs, instead of streaming it because I couldn't find it. I think it was on something and then it got taken off. The other one that I love is the Australian one. Which I'm blanking on her name. And that when you said Frankie Drake, it's similar to that. PBS Masterpiece. Okay. All right. And Amazon Prime. Okay. Yeah. I need to catch up on my Murdoch. It's amazing. So and then yes, Frankie Drake there too. Then I'll go look that up. I'm blanking on her name. What is her name? There's one that's an Australian woman. Her and a detective. And it's something with an F. It's like Fanny. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. What is her name? Fisher. Yes. Franny Fisher. Yes. That's another really good one too. I love that one. It's yeah. Her relationship with the detective. I love the detective in that one. He is so wholesome. And then there's Franny. It's just that she's so 1920s, and I love it. I love their relationship. It's fantastic. Yeah, that's the Franny Fisher mysteries. Those are really good too. So, all right, guys. Well, I won't make you sit here and watch me eat these because I'll make Anita very mad. So, Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. Happy winter and December. Thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, the recipes are available on my website. Let me pull that up again, patricia-meredith.com. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, like, share, all those things that you do on YouTube, and check out my books. So I've got 3 series. And then this is the first one. First one in this new series. So Death of a Christmas Tree Salesman. Like I said, it's available in ebook, print, and audiobook. If you order it from me, it will be signed, and then you get to support me directly. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you everybody who joined me in the chat so we could talk. Yes, happy holidays, and yeah. All right. Well, I guess I'll see you all tomorrow night, hopefully, at the Christmas party, and then in January. So thank you so much for joining me. Merry Christmas, and have a good night. Bye.